The virus is the competition here, not the other companies. I think the best situation we could be in is if 4 or 5, 6 of the companies that we normally compete with on a daily basis could all have successful, COVID-19 vaccines approved, especially early on where we know there's going to be constraints on supply. Frankly, the more we can have in hand, the better.
I'm really excited to welcome my guest, Alex Gorsky, Chairman and CEO of Johnson Johnson, to Molner's table. Alex runs a global behemoth with 134,000 employees selling products in 175 countries with revenues in excess of $80 billion. Hey, thanks for agreeing to this. This is not CNBC or Bloomberg, so hold on to your hat.
Hey, John, only because it's you, okay? Only
go.
because it's you.
So I like to warm up with our speed round. Here we go. Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
A favorite movie?
Apollo 13.
A recent book you've enjoyed?
The Great Pandemic, John Barry.
Favorite rock band?
Led Zeppelin.
How about a dream job other than the one you currently hold?
To be the chief creative officer for Disney.
And finally, a superpower you wish you had?
I'd like to be able to see into the future.
Johnson & Johnson, along with a few other companies, are in early stages of human testing for a vaccine. Can you give us some insight in terms of how that's going and what the outlook is based on where we are today for an effective and safe vaccine?
We believe that the experience that we already have with our platform, and when I say platform, John, think of it almost as the carrier, as the spaceship, as the car that you actually insert a piece of the coronavirus into so that your body develops an immune response and you begin producing something called neutralizing antibodies. So we felt very early on that we had a carrier that had been used in almost 80,000 patients in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We did early animal testing that gave us a lot of confidence that we were in fact going to see the response that we were hoping for in terms of producing the neutralizing antibodies. Once we had done that on multiple animal models, we selected one particular vector, and that's what we were using now in our phase 1 trial. It's over 1,000 patients. We're in the midst of that right now. Early recruitment has gone well. Within the coming weeks, we should have data to let us know if in fact we're seeing that same kind of production of neutralizing antibodies in humans that we saw in the animal models. And we'll also have a better understanding about the safety of the platform administered in humans as well. And then we'll use that information, hopefully, to then finalize the construct of a large phase 3 trial that could include, in our case, more than 60,000 patients. So that would give us the more definitive data and information about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine.
Where do you get 60,000 patients? Is that US or is that a global population?
Around the world. And we've got sites clearly here in the United States, but we're going to have multiple components of this program that will be done on a global basis. We also want to ensure, of course, that we're trying to reach as diverse of a patient population as we can. We know that this disease, unfortunately, has struck minority, particularly Black, African American, Hispanic populations at multiples of what it has others. And so our teams are working very hard as well to ensure that the patient population that we'll be testing the vaccine on is ultimately quite representative of the population where it will be used.
At the risk of oversimplifying, if you were to grade our country, private sector, the public response, the government, collectively, all of us, in terms of how we did in the first 3 months of confronting the pandemic versus the last 3 months, how do you evaluate it?
I think one thing that all of us have experienced with this pandemic is that we probably have gotten more wrong than we got right. We need to do a better job of convincing the public about the importance. While there's a lot of great science taking place with antivirals, with vaccines, the best medicine here is prevention of wearing a mask, having good hygiene, good social distancing, following those guidelines, more important than ever.
You've been the CEO and chairman of J&J during a pretty remarkable time. How has the role of CEO changed?
Look, a few ways. I think right now, in addition to being CEO, almost every CEO is expected to be, in fact, the chief medical officer for their organization. Because obviously one of the first tasks is you got to make sure that you're looking out for the safety and the welfare of your employees and the health of your employees.
Well, I know you've referred to J&J as a 134-year-old startup, and I know you're very proud of all the innovation at J&J. It doesn't rest on just iconic brands, although it has plenty of those. And it's amazing, as I thought about this conversation, to see that more than a quarter of your revenues come from products and innovations just recently developed within just a few years.
Innovation's our lifeblood. I mean, if we don't innovate, if we're not constantly looking for new ways to help people live longer, healthier, happier lives, that's better than existing therapies. And frankly, we just don't earn the right and to be successful in the market and the confidence and the trust and respect of our consumers and the patients that we serve. So innovation is part of everything that we do.
Alex, you're a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy. I know you spent 6 years in the U.S. Army. How has that experience informed the way you make decisions today?
I wouldn't be the leader I am today without those experiences. My time at both the academy and the military always taught you to take approach of ultimately how are you going to find a solution? How are you going to solve a problem? And no matter how high that wall was, how thick it was, what it would require, you basically, your job was to find a solution. And look, and I think that's the same approach that we try to take at Johnson & Johnson is it's not enough to admire the problem. Next, it really taught me just how to work with a wide array of different people. I learned more about my diversity my first 6 years in the Army than I had in my life up to that point in time. I didn't get to pick who my roommate was. They didn't look like me. They came from all walks of life. And I found very quickly that it's only when you learn at a very human level to be able to connect with people of very different backgrounds, different ethnicities, that ultimately you come together to work and you solve a problem in a much more innovative way. And last but not least, I think the other thing that you learned in the military was resilience. That there are going to be times when you're going to have to pick yourself up, when you're going to be uncertain about certain issues, where people around you are going to be looking to you, where you can be challenged, and how do you incorporate that input in? And so I think building the resilience and the kind of thing where, look, we're in this together, we're going to figure this out and ultimately get through and we're going to take care of each other along the way as we do that. Those are really important leadership skills that I certainly learned in my time at West Point and in the Army, and they continue to impact me today.
What advice would you offer to people that are at that inflection point in their careers, either looking for an initial position or changing roles?
Look, I would say, first of all, some advice I got early on is either do something you love or learn to love what you do, because you're going to do a lot of it. You don't want to have to fake it for that long. You want to do something that you really care, because when you care about it, you bring a different energy to the room. You bring it, your work, work isn't as much work. It's because you're genuinely interested in the topic and the subject matter. And that's just going to come across, especially over a long-term career.
Alex, you spent nearly 30 years at Johnson & Johnson. And so I thought, I wonder how well Alex Gorsky knows Johnson & Johnson. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Let's see how you do. True or false? The original Band-Aid was 8 inches in length.
I think that's false.
Very good. It was actually 18 inches in length. All right. In the 1950s, J&J became one of the first companies to sponsor ads on TV. The company backed popular family-oriented shows, including The Adventures of Robin Hood.
I have no idea.
That's true.
Did it?
True.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. Can you tell me in what century Listerine was developed? The 20th century or the 19th century?
So I'd have to believe the concepts may have been developed in the 1800s, but the product itself may not have been developed until the 1900s.
Correct. Well done, Alex. Hey, last question. With the election right around the corner, I'm curious if you can share what you expect in November and whether you're optimistic.
I do think that our system of government and that the process, while messy and challenging, in the long run gets it right. And I think the most important thing is that we all need to participate that in a really significant way. And I think frankly, it's all of our duties and responsibility to vote, to become educated, to make sure that we understand that yes, it's people, but it's also policies. It's also principles for the future that frankly, we all need to be engaged in these discussions and these debates because we all bring a very unique perspective.
Alex Gorsky, thank you so much for your time and your leadership. I really enjoyed the conversation.